Okay, so picture this. I pull into my parents' driveway, completely wiped out from 6 weeks of 16-hour workdays, running on like zero sleep and way too much coffee. I just wanted some roast chicken and a little peace, right? But the moment I step inside, things get weird. My mom has this whole plan. Neighbors are involved, and suddenly I'm caught in a story I didn't sign up for. By the way, where are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments. I was running on fumes, honestly. Like, there's no other way to describe it. My body felt like a sack of empty coffee cans, and my brain, well, it was doing that weird, half lucid, half panic thing that happens after 48 hours of no sleep. I'd spent the last 6 weeks buried in this massive project at work, launching a complete user experience overhaul for a fintech client, 16-hour days, Zoom calls across 3 time zones, coffee that was lukewarm before it even hit my lips, and a diet that could basically be called panic on a plate. My skin was tight, dry, borderline papery, and my eyes burned like someone had set little matchsticks under them. And I just wanted to sit somewhere quiet, eat my mom's roast chicken, and let silence wash over me. For a few hours, at least. That's all I needed. So there I was, parked in the driveway of my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon, just gripping the steering wheel for dear life. I wasn't even sure I had the energy to unbuckle my seatbelt. My car had been the only thing between me and complete collapse for the last half hour of driving, and now I was staring at this pristine colonial, the kind of house that could belong in a magazine, the kind that looked perfect, untouchable. My parents, Martha and Albert, had kept it manicured down to every last detail. Usually, it was comforting. You know, a sanctuary, a place where time slowed down. But that day, it wasn't. Something felt off. The curtains in the front bay window twitched, and a shadow moved just a little too fast for comfort. Probably just my mom peeking to see if I had arrived. But my exhausted brain turned it into something almost predatory. I took a deep, shaky breath and tried to mentally prepare myself. My boots clicked against the pavement as I dragged my feet up the path, a rhythm that matched the sluggish thrum in my temples. I was 32 years old. I owned my own house. I had a decent career, and yet, walking to that front door felt like stepping back into high school, sneaking in past curfew, stomach twisting. The air was cool, crisp, like it was supposed to wake me up, but it didn't. It just made the heaviness in my limbs feel colder, and then the door swung open. Before I could even reach for the knob, "She's here," my mom announced, not to me, but to the empty hallway behind her. That smile she had, tight, practiced, and completely lacking warmth. My mom wasn't wearing her usual Sunday apron, the one that smelled faintly of laundry detergent and vanilla. No, she was in a stiff blazer and slacks, hair sprayed into a helmet-like perfection. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Hi, Mom," my voice raspy, sounding stranger to my own ears than it should have. She barely glanced at me. "Claw, you're late. We have a schedule to maintain." I paused halfway out of my car, my boot halfway off. Schedule what? Schedule, my brain was still trying to catch up with reality. I tried to sound normal. Sorry, traffic was a nightmare, and, I had to send one last email before I left. I'm exhausted. "Well, get used to the traffic, dear," she said, breezy, dismissive. Although you won't be dealing with it much longer once you settle in." Settle in? Wait. What? I couldn't process it. "What dinner is on the table?" she said, ignoring my question, turning on her heel like she was conducting an orchestra only she could hear. "Your father is waiting. We have a lot to go over before the movers get here next week." Movers. My foggy mind blinked. Movers. I followed her into the dining room, heart pounding. The smell of roast chicken, which should have been comfort food, suddenly made my stomach twist. My father sat at the head of the table, offering a weak, apologetic smile, his hands nervously clasped in front of him. I could see him trying to disappear, the way he always did when my mom took the lead in the room. She pointed at my chair. On it was a clipboard, laminated, bold letters CL, daily responsibilities, draft 1. I stared. My throat tightened. Mom, what is this? We told the neighbors yesterday, she said, pouring iced tea with steady hands. Mrs. Gable asked about your struggles in the city. I told her the good news: you finally decided to be sensible, give up that cramped rental, and move back home to take care of us. It's best for everyone. My blood ran cold. Struggles. Rental. Move back home. I gripped the clipboard as if it were a lifeline. Each phrase on that sheet screamed entitlement, control, and a narrative I had never agreed to. 600 prepare father's breakfast, 800 deep clean, 1,200 drive mother to bridge club, 1,500 grocery shopping, 2,100 lights out. My eyes darted from her to my dad, seeking an anchor. But Albert looked down, muttering something about health and strain, avoiding me entirely. I sat there, in my parents' dining room, utterly exhausted, my limbs heavy, my mind spinning with disbelief. This wasn't just about chores or a schedule, it was a full-on rewriting of my life, orchestrated by the woman who raised me. I wanted comfort, quiet, and my mom's roast chicken. Instead, I was being trapped, caught in a web I hadn't even known existed, and yet the weight of it pressed down like a physical thing. Every instinct told me to run, to leave, to reclaim my own space. And maybe, just maybe, I was about to do exactly that, though I didn't know it yet. The tension, the anticipation, that subtle unease, it hung thick in the air. And I felt it pressing into every nerve, every bone, every exhausted inch of me. The moment I stepped fully into the house, I realized something had shifted. It wasn't just the exhaustion anymore, it was the air. The way the room seemed smaller, sharper somehow, as if they had been rearranged while I wasn't looking. My mom's gaze flicked over me, sharp and assessing, and then it landed on the clipboard in my chair. She didn't look at me as a daughter coming home from work, tired and frayed. She looked at me as a resource, a tool, a solution to a problem I hadn't agreed to even exist. She picked up the laminated sheet and laid it on the table with a deliberate click that made my stomach drop. It wasn't a napkin or a casual note. It was a full-blown schedule. Bold headings, times in increments, tasks meticulously spelled out from the moment I would wake to the moment I would go to bed. Prepare father's low-sodium breakfast at 6 a.m., deep clean the ground floor by 10, transport mother to bridge club at noon, grocery shopping at 3, lights out, power saving mode, 9 p.m. I blinked, staring at the words, my mind lagging behind what my eyes were seeing. This was insane, completely insane. I felt my chest tighten, but I tried to keep my voice steady, even though the tremor was obvious. Mom, what is this? My hand hovered over the clipboard like it might bite me. She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Her tone was calm, breezy, almost pleasant, as if she were explaining the weather rather than presenting a tyrannical blueprint for my life. We told the neighbors yesterday, she said, pouring herself iced tea with measured grace. Mrs. Gable asked about your struggles in the city. I told her the good news: you finally decided to be sensible. Give up that cramped rental and move back home to take care of us. It really is the best solution for everyone. I froze, and then the words caught up with me. Struggles rental. Move back home. My blood felt like it was draining from my face. I opened my mouth, closed it. My brain kept looping around a single impossible truth. She hadn't asked me. She hadn't consulted me. She had already sold a story about my life to the entire neighborhood. a story where I was struggling, fragile, desperate for their guidance, and she had told it confidently, casually, as though it were fact. I stammered, grasping at coherence. My voice sounded small, exhausted. My hand still rested on the edge of the clipboard, trembling slightly. She tilted her head, watching me, her lips curved in that self-satisfied smile that made my skin crawl. "Eat your potatoes, Claire," she said, cutting her meat with surgical precision. Her voice was soft, commanding, and it felt like it pierced through me. "We can discuss the basement renovation after you've signed the agreement." I felt the betrayal like a physical blow. This wasn't misunderstanding, not even remotely. This was a narrative she had constructed entirely on her own, framed and polished to present to the world while I was living my life in the city, fighting tooth and nail to maintain control over it. And looking at her calm, expectant face, I realized she genuinely believed I had no choice. That realization was worse than anything she could have said. I looked back down at the clipboard. The text jumped at me, almost tauntingly. Every task, every time, every expectation screamed ownership. The moment-by-moment breakdown of my potential day was absurd, exhausting, oppressive. "Mom, this is a joke," I whispered. The paper crinkled under my grip, a sound sharp and accusing in the otherwise quiet dining room. My father shifted in his chair, eyes darting to the centerpiece, to the floor, anywhere but me or her. "Well, Claire," he said slowly, in that hesitant, passive tone I knew too well. "Your mother, she feels that with her hip and my blood pressure. It's getting harder to manage the big house. And we heard things have been tough for you." "Tough," I repeated, my voice rising, disbelief and exhaustion intertwining. "I just led a $2 million project. I was promoted last month. Who told you things were tough?" "Oh, stop it, Claire," my mom snapped, sharper than before, dropping her fork. The clatter echoed around the dining room, punctuating the tension like a warning shot. "We know you're renting that tiny shoebox in the city. We know you don't have a husband to support you. Mrs. Gable said she saw your car parked at that discount grocery store 3 weeks ago. There's no shame in admitting you're failing, but there is shame in lying to your parents about it." I wanted to scream. "I shop at Aldi because I'm frugal, Mom, not because I'm broke." My voice cut through the room, raw, trembling. "And I don't rent. I bought my house 3 years ago. You came to the housewarming." "A bank owns that house, Claire." She waved a dismissive hand. "And the payments must be drowning you. Why else would you be single at 32? You're clearly stressed. Look at you. You look terrible. You have bags under your eyes the size of suitcases. You need us." Her eyes locked onto mine, cold and terrifying, like she was reading not just my face, but my very thoughts. She had crafted this narrative so perfectly, so confidently, that it seemed real. I realized then that this was never about chores or schedules or even the house itself. It was about control. She hadn't just assumed power over my life, she had weaponized her social circle, her neighbors, her friends, against me. Every word she had told them about my supposed struggles was a chain binding me, and the clipboard was just the first visible link. "I am not moving in here," I said slowly, spacing out each word. "I am not your maid. I am not your nurse." She didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned back slightly, as if she were adjusting to my protest in the same casual way someone might adjust a lampshade. "The neighbors expect you on Tuesday," she said, her voice dropping an octave, dangerous and soft at the same time. "I told them you'd be handling the Fall Festival committee on my behalf. Don't you dare embarrass me. Claire, you are going to give notice at your apartment tomorrow, and you are going to come home where you belong. We raised you. You owe us this." And just like that, the weight of high school came crashing back. Decades condensed into one suffocating moment. I looked at my father again, silently begging for him to step in, to be the parent I needed. But he took a bite of his potatoes, eyes averted, utterly paralyzed. I picked up the clipboard again, Martha smiling like she had already won. "Read it carefully," she said, voice sharp, instructive. I looked at her, and for the first time, my exhaustion crystallized into something colder, harder, not fear, not weariness, clarity. "No," I said softly. I dropped the clipboard. It landed on her plate with a wet splat of gravy. Her scream cut through the room, a high-pitched, shocked note, while my pulse thudded in my ears. "I'm leaving," I said. I turned toward the door, adrenaline sparking through every nerve. "If you walk out that door," she yelled, voice fracturing into panic and fury, "don't expect us to be here when you come crawling back. You are ungrateful. You are selfish. You will lose that apartment and be on the street, and I won't lift a finger." I grabbed my purse, hands shaking, not from weakness, but from the rush of reclaiming ownership of my life. The bridge between being a child and being a woman finally igniting under my control. "Goodbye, Mother," I called out without looking back, and the door slammed behind me. The sound rattled through my bones, a punctuation mark on the betrayal, the manipulation, the sheer audacity of what she had tried to pull off while I was just existing, working, living my own life. In that moment, I understood fully my mother had crafted a narrative, told it to the world, and placed me inside it like a character in a story I never agreed to. Shock, confusion, and rising frustration coiled together in my chest. But beneath it all was the clarity that I could step out of it, leave it, and no one, not even the woman who raised me, could stop me from reclaiming my own life. Sitting in the car after slamming that door, my mind kept replaying every moment of the encounter, over and over, trying to make sense of it, and then it hit me, the pattern. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't just about a clipboard or a schedule. This was decades of subtle manipulation condensed into one twisted plan. My mom had been doing this quietly, almost invisibly, since I was a kid. She didn't operate on love or affection. She operated on control. Every compliment, every criticism, every chore or favor I'd ever done had been carefully calibrated to keep me dependent, always just a little off balance, always needing her approval. I thought about my brother, who had wisely moved to Australia 5 years ago, when he stopped calling regularly, who filled the silence. Me, every Sunday I went over, listened to her complaints, made sure the house ran smoothly, tried to patch the gaps. When my father had knee surgery, I took 2 weeks off, cooked meals, drove him to therapy, quietly smoothing over the tension she seemed to thrive on. And for what? To be acknowledged, to hear her say, "Good job, Claire." She never said it because that wasn't the currency she dealt in. The currency was compliance. The currency was dependence. The currency was the belief that I had nowhere else to turn. I started connecting the dots, the small questions about money disguised as concern, the casual remarks about the house being too big or my rent being high, the probing into my social life, even the way she tracked my errands through the neighbors. It was all groundwork, all laying the foundation for the moment she thought I'd be weak enough to manipulate. And she had chosen this exact moment, exhaustion, sleep deprivation, single, overwhelmed, as the perfect time to present me with a scenario where I was supposed to accept her narrative without question. It was brilliant in a twisted, almost criminal way. She had spent months nudging, hinting, framing a reality where I was a failure who needed to come home. Every casual remark she made about the city, my rental, my lifestyle, it wasn't casual. It was designed to seed doubt, to make her version of events plausible, to make the neighbors the social circle. see me as exactly what she wanted, a struggling, dependent daughter ready to be swept back into the home she controlled, and here I was, exhausted, expecting comfort, and instead being handed a full-time caretaker job that I never agreed to. I realized the caretaker plan itself was a masterpiece of psychological engineering. She hadn't just made a list of chores, she had created a life schedule that would keep me occupied, tied to her needs, completely absorbed in maintaining the house and serving her while she relaxed. Every grocery run, every bridge club escort, every meal prep, it was all calculated. It wasn't about my well-being. It was about hers, her convenience, and her ability to maintain the illusion of frailty to the outside world. And she had layered the social angle on top, telling neighbors, enlisting the moral weight of community opinion, making me feel that refusal wasn't just rebellion against her, it was betrayal against everyone around me. It was genius in the most horrifying way, and I could see it clearly now. My entire upbringing had been subtly threaded with this logic. My achievements, my independence, my successes, they were never celebrated on their own. They were tools to reinforce her narrative. She needed me to succeed just enough to keep the story convincing, but she also needed me to fail in small ways, to create dependency, to justify her role as the indispensable parent. Love wasn't the goal, leverage was. Security wasn't the goal, control was. And I had been unknowingly playing into her hands my entire life, thinking I was helping, thinking I was doing the right thing. I thought about the past 20 years, the ways I had tried to buy affection, to patch silences, to be helpful, useful, present. Every Sunday visit, every meal cooked, every errand run, it was all part of her system. And I had been blind to it, assuming it was normal family dynamics, that the tension and the expectation were just quirks of being the daughter. But now looking back with exhausted, angry clarity, it was a pattern designed for one thing: to lock me in, to ensure that I never truly escaped, that I remained a dependable, controllable extension of her life, ready to serve her needs and prop up her image. And here's the thing, it wasn't even about me personally. It was about the narrative she sold to the world. Every conversation, every gossip, every concerned inquiry from neighbors, it all fed the illusion. And when I thought I could finally take a breath, she struck this full-scale plan, presented as reality, expecting compliance. It was all laid bare in that clipboard, in the schedule, in the way she presented it, like a fait accompli. And the worst part, my father, who could have intervened, who could have been an ally, simply sit there, passive, complicit in the quiet way that made it all possible. I felt a strange mix of rage and disbelief. How had I not seen it? How had I accepted so many small slights, so many manipulations, as simply the background noise of family life? But there it was, stark and undeniable, a calculated system designed to make me doubt myself, question my sanity, and ultimately submit to her plan. The more I thought about it, the more the picture clarified. Every remark about money, every question about my life choices, every casual observation about my exhaustion or stress, they weren't idle. They were all part of the long game, designed to catch me at my weakest and reel me in. And as the car engine idled beneath me, I felt a sense of, well, awakening, I guess. A mixture of fear, clarity, and anger. Fear at the sheer audacity of what she had planned, clarity at understanding the patterns that had always been there, hidden in plain sight, and anger, cold, hard, focused at the realization that I had been treated as a line item in someone else's spreadsheet, a pawn in a game I never agreed to play. But with that anger came something else, something crucial: recognition of my own power, my ability to step out, to reclaim the narrative, to refuse to play the role she had written for me. And for the first time that day, I felt the faintest spark of control, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, I could rewrite the story on my own terms. By the time I pulled over into a gas station parking lot, my chest was still hammering like a drum solo I couldn't turn off. But somewhere in the chaos of adrenaline and exhaustion, a sliver of clarity cut through. This wasn't about arguing, pleading, or convincing anyone. I needed a plan, a real plan. And I knew exactly where to start. Mrs. Higgins. My phone felt heavy in my hand, but also like the lifeline it was. She wasn't just any real estate agent. She was sharp, relentless, the kind of woman who could sell a haunted house to a ghost hunter if the price was right. And most importantly, she had helped me buy my home 3 years ago. If anyone could help me regain control, it was her. I dialed, trying to steady my breathing, listening to the clicks as the line connected. Her voice came through, crisp, warm, professional. "Claire, to what do I owe the pleasure?" she said, as though she had no idea I was in the middle of what felt like a personal apocalypse. I swallowed, words tumbling over each other, but I forced myself to be clear. Not the investment property, Mrs. Higgins, I said, almost laughing nervously. "I want to sell my primary residence, the Victorian. I need to move. Far away. Fast." There was a pause on the line, and I could almost hear her processing, like a predator analyzing a sudden opportunity. "Your home. Claire, honey, you love that house. You just finished the kitchen, I know," I said, voice tight, trembling with both fear and excitement. "But I need out. I need to sell it, and I need it done quickly." My pulse was racing so fast I could feel it in my fingertips. The thrill, the rush of finally taking the reins of my life was intoxicating. It wasn't just about leaving, it was about reclaiming every ounce of autonomy I'd been denied. Okay, she said, shifting into professional mode. "Rapid fire now. We can do this. Fast. List it, stage it, get it out there. You want top dollar or speed?" I said immediately. "I don't care about maximizing. I just need it gone. And I need the sign up tomorrow morning, Mrs. Higgins's laugh was brief, approving. "I like your style, but does your mother know?" I hesitated, then felt the grin that had been building all day spread across my face. "No, and she can't know. Not yet." There it was, the delicious, quiet thrill of outmaneuvering her. For once, I had the upper hand. She chuckled knowingly. "Ah, I see. Right? Discretion will be key. But, Claire, with the market right now, you're gonna make a killing. Trust me." I let myself take a slow, shaky breath, feeling a little lighter. For the first time in hours, maybe even days, I felt control. It wasn't just about selling the house. It was about telling her, the world, and maybe even myself, that I wasn't going to be trapped, manipulated, or dictated to anymore. I was reclaiming the narrative, and I loved it. We mapped out the strategy quickly, staging professional photos, listing Thursday, open house Sunday, and keeping the whole thing under wraps until the ink was dry. Every detail, every step was meticulously plotted. I could almost see her expression if she got wind of any of it, her smug certainty crumbling when faced with the truth. And that, honestly, made the adrenaline surge even more. Once the call ended, I sat back in my car, letting the quiet of the gas station surround me. My mind was racing, but it wasn't panicked anymore. It was sharp, focused, electric. I pictured every possible move, every scenario, every way she might try to intercept me or spin the story to her advantage, and I planned for all of them. I felt a thrill, a pulse of empowerment, the kind that comes only when you've been cornered for so long and suddenly realize you hold the keys to your own escape. I imagined the sign going up in the front yard, the neighborhood gossip machinery whirring into motion, and her confidence shattering piece by piece as she realized that I wasn't just leaving, I was doing it on my terms. And there was nothing she could do about it. For the first time. The fear that had been a constant shadow the quiet, nagging anxiety that she would always find a way to keep me under her thumb started to fade. In its place was clarity. I was taking decisive action. I was reclaiming control. Even as I drove back, adrenaline buzzing through me. I made mental checklists: what needed to be packed first, which rooms should be staged for maximum impact, how to keep the signs discreet until the time was right. Each task, each thought reinforced a sense of power I hadn't felt in years. And yes, there was a thrill in imagining her reaction, though I kept that mostly to myself, a quiet satisfaction that was mine and mine alone. It wasn't just about selling a house, it was about proving to her and to myself that I wasn't a child anymore, that I could act strategically, boldly, decisively, and with purpose, that I could reclaim the life I had worked for without asking permission, without being trapped by guilt, obligation, or manipulated narratives. The plan was simple, clean, effective, and for the first time, I felt like I was in the driver's seat of my own story. And the rush was intoxicating. It made every ounce of exhaustion, every sleepless night, every unfair expectation I'd endured worth it. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was reclaiming, fighting, and winning, and it felt amazing. By Wednesday afternoon, the house was already buzzing with boxes, tape, and the faint scent of bubble wrap from the library. I was carefully wrapping my vintage sci-fi novels, a ritual that helped me focus. When the pounding started, not a knock, a demand. My heart leapt into my throat. I froze, holding a book mid-wrap, and instinctively checked the security camera feed on my phone. Martha, she was standing on the porch, wearing that concerned mother mask, the one that hides aggression behind pinched eyebrows and pursed lips, but her body language screamed attack. I debated ignoring her, pretending not to be home. I knew if I didn't answer, she'd escalate, maybe even call the police and claim I was suicidal. So I opened the door, just enough to frame myself, just enough to keep control. "Claire," she said, pushing past me before I could speak, her shoulder checking mine with surprising force. She marched into the hallway, eyes scanning the stacks of boxes like she was inspecting the aftermath of some catastrophe. "Thank God you're packing," she sighed dramatically, placing a hand over her heart. "I was so worried when you didn't answer. I thought you were going to be stubborn and wait until the sheriff came to evict you." I closed the door slowly, turning to face her fully. Every instinct screamed at me to stay calm, to keep control of the narrative. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice tight but steady. "I came to supervise," she said, running a finger along the top of a box. "And to make sure you aren't bringing any junk. The basement is small. Claire, you can bring your clothes, obviously, but this," she gestured to my carefully packed boxes. "You can donate or leave for the landlord. We don't have room." I felt the heat rise in my chest. "I'm not leaving them," I said, voice firm, "and I'm not moving into the basement." Martha laughed, that high-pitched, tinkling sound that grated on my nerves like sandpaper. "Oh, stop it. We've already discussed this. The neighbors know you're coming on Saturday. Mrs. Gable has organized a meal train to help you settle in since you'll be so busy with the cleaning schedule." I crossed my arms, letting the words hang between us. The air was thick with tension. "And now," I said, letting my exhaustion sharpen into determination, "I'm not driving you to the pharmacy, and I'm not moving into your basement. Saturday isn't happening." Martha blinked, her polished composure faltering just slightly. "Excuse me," she asked, voice dropping to that dangerous whisper I'd learned to recognize. "Do not test me. I know you're embarrassed. I know it's hard to admit you failed. But playing hard to get, isn't going to change the facts. You have no money, you have no home, you have nowhere else to go. I inhaled slowly, letting the adrenaline settle into a cold, focused clarity. I have a job, I said steady. A very good job. A job that clearly pays enough to keep a roof over my head. She gestured to the window where the for sale sign was visible. The sign's in the yard. Claire, you're being evicted. Stop lying to me. I laughed softly, a sound devoid of humor. That sign doesn't mean I'm being evicted, I said, letting my voice rise just enough to carry authority. It means I'm selling. I own this house. I've owned it for 3 years, and I'm moving to London. Her face froze, a mask of disbelief plastered over her features. London, she repeated, as though I'd said something impossible. You can't even afford rent in this suburb. How are you going to live in London? I smiled faintly, letting the thrill of control wash over me. I was transferred, I said, enjoying the flicker of confusion crossing her face. My company is moving me. They're covering everything. And when this house sells, I'll have a very healthy nest egg. So no, I won't be dusting your baseboards. I won't be driving you to bridge club. I'm going to be living in Europe. Martha's expression twisted through shock, then denial, then pure, unadulterated rage. You're lying. She spat. You're making this up to hurt me, just like your brother. Selfish, delusional. I have the plane ticket. Mom, I said calmly, I leave in 2 weeks. She stared at me, breathing heavily, then let a mask of cold pity descend over her face. Oh, Claire, she said softly, shaking her head. You really are sick, aren't you, London? A transfer, you've clearly had a breakdown. This is just a fantasy you've concocted to cope with the shame of losing your apartment. I took a step closer, voice low but firm. Get out, I whispered. I said, get out. She opened the door slightly. I'll see you on Saturday. Claire, and don't worry, we'll tell the neighbors you're just confused. We'll keep your little London story between us. Her car doors slammed before I could even breathe. Silence descended, and for a heartbeat, the world felt still. I stood there, shaking, not from fear, but from the intensity of the confrontation, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. She didn't believe me, or rather, she refused to, because the truth was inconvenient, and I knew she would spin it, try to manipulate everyone around her. The social smear campaign had already begun before her car even left the street. I could feel it in the vibrations of my phone as texts started rolling in cousins and aunts warning, questioning, scolding. She was painting me as unstable, manic, and delusional, and part of me felt that old fear flicker, the fear of everyone believing her. But now, there was also anger, sharpened and focused. Why was she fighting this so hard? Why was the stakes so high? It hit me. It wasn't about chores or appearances. She wanted me under her control because she had a goal, a luxury cruise, 120 days, $40,000 first-class stateroom. She had cleared the professional help, fired Maria, and assumed I'd fill the role of unpaid caretaker. Every text, every maneuver, every lie was to manipulate me into becoming her free property manager while she enjoyed herself. She wasn't sick. She wasn't frail. She was calculating. And now I realized that I could not be manipulated anymore. I pulled out my phone again, calm and deliberate, and dialed Mrs. Higgins. Claire, we have a situation. Her voice was grave. I told her exactly what had happened, and together we mapped the strategy to protect the listing and sell the house. I felt that familiar rush, the adrenaline of control, the clarity of strategy, the thrill of finally acting for myself, and not as a pawn in her game. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was directing, commanding, reclaiming my life piece by piece. And Martha, she didn't even know the half of it yet. After the confrontation with Martha, I couldn't just sit there and stew. My mind was spinning, and I needed clarity. Concrete proof, something I could hold on to validate what I already suspected. That's when I remembered the login info I had for their joint email account, the one I set up for them on the iPad a couple of years ago. Normally, I would have hesitated. It felt like a breach of privacy, but at that moment, all bets were off. They were actively trying to manipulate and control me, so I wasn't worried about morality. I was worried about survival, about reclaiming my life. I opened the inbox, ignoring the predictable deluge of spam and Bridge Club newsletters, and went straight to the sent items, scanning for anything that looked unusual. Then I found a chain of emails from 3 weeks ago with a staffing agency, subject line replacement for Maria. My stomach dropped a little. Maria had been the professional caregiver they hired to help around the house, the one who had apparently quit under mysterious circumstances. I clicked open the first email. The agency representative outlined the problem. They couldn't send another aide to the house because Maria had filed a formal complaint, verbal abuse, unreasonable working conditions. And to top it off, there was an outstanding balance of over $3,400 for the last 2 months of service. My eyes narrowed. I scrolled down to Martha's reply. She had written, almost casually, Maria was incompetent and a thief. I am not paying for subpar service. Besides, my daughter is moving back next month to take over full-time, so cancel your contract immediately. I froze, the phone trembling slightly in my hands. That was it. That was the proof I needed. She hadn't been ill. She hadn't needed a caretaker out of necessity. She had cleared out professional help, driven away the people who could maintain her household, and expected me to step in for free. Every manipulation, every calculated move suddenly clicked into place. I wasn't moving home to care for her. I was moving home to manage her affairs and maintain her lifestyle, unpaid and trapped. The rage hit me slowly at first, a low simmer, then it escalated into a cold, hard fury. The audacity of it, the meticulous planning, the years of psychological groundwork, it was staggering. I felt my chest tighten, but this time it wasn't fear. It was anger, sharpened into clarity. She had used social pressure, community expectations, and the narrative of my supposed failure to orchestrate this scenario, and she had counted on me being too exhausted to resist. But there was more. Another folder caught my eye, labeled travel. My curiosity spiked, a mix of dread and anticipation. Inside was a booking confirmation for the Royal Caribbean World Cruise, 120 days, departing November 15th, first-class staterooms, the total cost nearly $40,000. My jaw dropped. I could feel the heat rising, my vision sharpening. They weren't frail. They weren't dependent. They were planning a luxurious escape, and I was meant to fill in the gaps while they sipped mimosas in the Mediterranean. I scrolled through the details again, making sure I wasn't hallucinating from exhaustion, and then it all became chillingly clear. Every question about my finances, every comment about my apartment, every subtle hint about how exhausted or overwhelmed I was, it had been laying the groundwork for this moment. She had been waiting for me to be tired, to be vulnerable, to be compliant, and when she sensed the opportunity, she struck, confident I would fall into the trap she had meticulously prepared. I sat there, hands shaking, not from fear, but from the intense, icy clarity that came with realizing the full scope of her manipulation. I had been nothing more than a line item in her spreadsheet, a caretaker, a property manager, an unpaid servant, all while she spent my money on an extravagant vacation. The thought made my blood boil, but also ignited a strange, empowering resolve. I was done being a pawn, done being manipulated, done being assumed weak or desperate. I printed everything, emails, invoices, the cruise confirmation, and laid them out on the table. Each document felt like a tiny weapon, a piece of undeniable truth that stripped away her narrative layer by layer. I could practically feel the weight of control shift back into my hands. No more ambiguity, no more manipulation, no more coerced guilt. The picture was as clear as day. She had planned this, executed it with precision, and expected compliance, but she had underestimated me. Exhaustion could no longer dictate my choices. Every piece of evidence fueled the next step. I didn't just feel vindicated, I felt prepared. I knew exactly what I needed to do to protect myself and reclaim my independence. This wasn't just about escaping a house. It was about dismantling a carefully constructed illusion, exposing the manipulation, and taking back control over my life. And with that clarity, for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel trapped. I felt powerful, determined, ready to act, and the cold, sharp fury, that was my ally, lighting the way to reclaim everything that was mine. The next few days were a blur of meticulous planning and calculated action. Mrs. Higgins and I moved quickly, almost feverishly, to prepare the house for sale. Professional stagers came in, transforming each room into something that could exist in a magazine, the kind of neutral elegance that lets buyers imagine their own lives inside these walls. Every candle, every throw pillow, every strategically placed vase was considered. The house smelled of fresh vanilla cookies, a subtle nod to comfort, but also a silent jab at Martha, who had once sneered at store-bought treats. I watched it all with a strange thrill. It was like setting a stage for the ultimate performance. And this time, I was in control. Signs went up discreetly, strategically placed, visible enough for the neighborhood to notice, but not so obvious that Martha would catch wind too soon. My pulse quickened every time I imagined her reaction, the smug certainty she carried finally on shaky ground. It was intoxicating. Knowing that the game had shifted and the pieces were moving exactly the way I wanted, I had taken back the reins, and for the first time in years, I felt an electric clarity, a rush that mixed adrenaline, satisfaction, and the sweet taste of impending vindication. By the time Sunday arrived, the air had that crisp, golden quality of an autumn afternoon. Perfect for an open house, cars lined the street, and the front garden glistened under the soft sunlight. Mrs. Higgins had done a spectacular job. The house was more than ready. I stood in the kitchen, dressed not in sweatpants or resignation, but in a tailored navy dress that screamed authority, elegance, and control. I was ready. I was prepared. I was no longer the exhausted daughter she thought she could manipulate. The door opened, and the familiar click of heels announced Martha's arrival. She was dressed for battle, a severe gray tweed ensemble, walking with a speed that betrayed her supposed arthritic limitations. Albert trailed behind, looking lost, carrying a casserole dish covered in foil like a peace offering. I anchored myself by the fireplace, feeling the cool steadiness of resolve. Buyers were already mingling, sniffing the air, inspecting details, and I could feel the tension mount as Martha stepped into the room. Excuse me, she announced loudly, voice projecting through the crowd. Please watch your step. The floorboards haven't been fixed yet. The murmur of conversation dropped to a cautious hush. Eyes flicked to the young couple near the door, alarmed. My pulse thudded in sync with the collective attention of the room. Mrs. Higgins stepped forward, her smile tight but professional. Mrs. Peterson, she said, calm and precise. The inspection report is pristine. Floors are solid oak, installed last year. Martha ignored her entirely and turned toward me, eyes narrowing. This wasn't a mother seeing her daughter, it was a general spotting a deserter. Claire, she exclaimed, rushing over to touch my forehead in that patronizing, over-concerned gesture. Oh, honey, you're feverish. I told you this was too much stress. You're confused. We need to cancel the listing. I took a measured step back, letting the space between us emphasize my autonomy. Dad, I said, my voice cutting clearly through the murmurs. Put the casserole down. Albert froze, staring from the dish to me, hesitant, unsure. Claire, maybe we should talk outside, he mumbled, trying to mediate. No, I said firmly. We're going to talk right here. The buyers were now fully attentive. Their curiosity piqued, sensing the tension and the drama like spectators at a theater. I am the owner of this property, I continued, voice steady, resonant. I am of sound mind. I am a senior UX researcher for a Fortune 500 company, and next week I am transferring to our London headquarters. My mother is lying to you because she is trying to force me into her basement to be her unpaid servant. Martha let out that high, frantic laugh, disbelief coloring her tone. She's delusional. London job fantasy? Broke? Totally broke. You can't even afford rent here. I calmly reached behind me to the folder of evidence I had prepared over the past few days. With deliberate motion, I held it up for all to see. Am I broke? I asked, voice firm, scanning the room. Then why has Mrs. Higgins just received verified proof of funds from my bank, showing exactly how solvent I am? The room murmured, tension shifting, attention focused. I stepped forward. You told the neighbors I was broke, I said, directing my voice at Martha, each word deliberate, each syllable controlled. You told them I was a failure, struggling, so you could play the savior. But that wasn't enough, was it? You needed me desperate because you fired Maria, you cleared the agency, you booked your cruise, and you expected me to manage everything for free. Her face went pale, the mask of concern cracking, replaced by something raw, defensive. The buyers and neighbors were silent, watching the unfolding revelation, absorbing the layers of deception as I exposed them piece by piece. I opened the second document, the cruise confirmation, Royal Caribbean World Cruise, departing November 15th, 4 months, first class, $38,400, I read aloud, slowly, letting the weight of the numbers settle in the room. Gasps rippled through the buyers. You can't afford this ticket on your pension. Can you? I asked, voice low but cutting. That's why you needed me in the basement. You were going to charge me rent to live in my own childhood home. Martha's face trembled now, a snarl breaking through, her composure utterly gone. You ungrateful little brat, she hissed. After everything I did for you, we raised you. You owe us, you are selfish. You are leaving us to rot while you run off to Europe. I held my gaze, steady, unflinching. I am not leaving you to rot, I said calmly. I am leaving you to live the life you can actually afford. If you want a caretaker, hire one. But you won't be using me. I turned to Albert, who was staring at the cruise receipt, then at Martha, realization dawning. Martha, he said, voice unexpectedly firm. You booked the world cruise. You told me we were just visiting your sister in Florida. She snapped, defensive. I was handling it with Claire's money. Albert shook his head, turning to me. She has plenty of money. Look at this place. She can afford to help us. She's not selfish. We are. Martha stood there, stripped of lies, power, and allies, surrounded by strangers who now knew exactly who she was. She looked small, pathetic. The control she had wielded for decades dissolved in the wake of evidence and truth. Mrs. Higgins stepped forward, clapping her hands lightly. As you can see, the seller is highly motivated, and the title is clear. Who wants to see the primary suite? The crowd started moving, interest shifting back to the property, the house, the possibilities. The fallout was immediate. The house didn't just sell, it sparked a frenzy. Multiple offers came in, over asking, within days. Martha's social credibility was gone. Albert had finally stepped up. And me, I had not only reclaimed my life, but I had also orchestrated a dramatic public vindication that no amount of manipulation could undo. The days after the open house felt surreal, almost dreamlike. The house had sold, not just sold, but sparked a bidding war that none of us had anticipated. Mrs. Higgins had staged it perfectly, and her guidance had been flawless. The property went for $60,000 over asking, and within 9 days, we were closed. I walked through each room one last time before handing over the keys, feeling a strange mix of relief, triumph, and disbelief. Every book, every carefully placed throw pillow, every little detail that had once represented Martha's control now symbolized my reclamation of agency. Martha, of course, was humiliated, her carefully constructed narrative the sick, frail, needy mother who relied on her desperate, struggling daughter had crumbled in front of the community, in front of the neighbors, in front of buyers who had witnessed the drama unfold. Mrs. Gable, the neighbor who had been an observer of every subtle manipulation and now a witness to its exposure, looked on with a mixture of satisfaction and quiet glee. The gossip that had once worked against me now worked in my favor, illustrating the stark contrast between the truth and Martha's constructed persona. Albert, my father, had undergone his own transformation in those days. No divorce, no drama. But something more powerful, he had finally stood up. 3 days before my flight, we met for dinner at a downtown steakhouse. Just the two of us. The place was quiet, the lighting soft, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace in his presence. He looked tired, yes, but lighter, as if a burden he had carried silently for decades had been lifted. His eyes met mine across the table, and he reached out, taking my hand. His palm was rough and warm, grounding me in the moment. "I can't believe this," he said, voice thick with emotion. "She canceled the cruise, lost the deposit. She's furious." I chuckled softly, the tension in my shoulders easing. "I bet she is. How is it at home quiet?" he said, almost wistfully. "I hired the agency back, not Maria. She wouldn't come back, but a new girl. I told Martha that if she fires her again, I'm moving into a condo. I think she believes me this time." I squeezed his hand lightly, grateful for this subtle but significant shift. It wasn't just about the house or the sale, it was about reclaiming family dynamics, redefining boundaries, and witnessing the father I had hoped for finally asserting himself. For years, I had played the role of fixer, caretaker, and mediator, trying to preserve peace in a household where control and manipulation reigned. Now, the landscape had changed, and for the first time, the scales of power felt balanced. Packing for London was an entirely different energy. I moved through my apartment, selecting what to bring with a mix of excitement and reflection. Each item held memories, some heavy, some sweet, but all chosen with intent. I didn't feel rushed. I felt deliberate. This wasn't an escape, it was an ascension. My career, my assets, my decisions were entirely my own, and I reveled in the freedom of that realization. Each suitcase I zipped closed represented autonomy, a tangible reminder that I was no longer tethered to expectations I hadn't agreed to or manipulation I hadn't invited. The flight itself, the airport, the gate, it all felt like ritual and liberation combined. My passport, my boarding pass, my carefully curated carry-on, all symbols of a life reclaimed. My phone buzzed one last time with a text from Martha. "I hope you're happy. The neighbors are whispering. If you want to make this right, send a check for the cruise deposit you made me lose." I didn't respond. I didn't block her. I deleted the thread. The finality of that gesture, quiet but resolute, felt like a ceremonial cutting of the ties that had bound me for so long. As I walked down the jetway, the wheels of my carry-on gliding smoothly over the carpet. I felt a calm strength settle over me. I wasn't running away. I wasn't escaping in panic. I was ascending to a life I had fought to reclaim, to a future I had orchestrated on my own terms. The city below, sprawling suburbs with that pristine colonial house tucked neatly among the rows of manicured lawns, looked almost surreal from this altitude. Somewhere down there, Martha was probably dusting baseboards, waiting for a daughter who would never arrive. And for the first time, I allowed myself to savor the satisfaction, the peace, and the absolute liberation of that moment. The flight attendant appeared, offering me a glass of champagne. "What's the occasion?" she asked kindly, with that practiced airline warmth. I smiled, clinking my glass gently against the coaster. "Freedom," I said. "Pure, unadulterated freedom." The words tasted as sweet as the champagne. A toast to autonomy, vindication, and the new life ahead. All the stress, the manipulation, the suffocating control had culminated in this exact moment, and I could finally let myself breathe. I wasn't just leaving the house, the neighborhood, or even the drama behind. I was leaving the patterns, the limitations, the expectations that had been imposed on me for decades. I was taking everything I had earned, every ounce of skill, intellect, and strength, and I was moving forward into a life entirely of my own design. Sitting there, watching the city shrink beneath me, I reflected on the journey, on the battles, the confrontation, the painstaking work of proving the truth and reclaiming my power. Martha had tried to manipulate, to control, to rewrite reality to suit her needs, but all her schemes, all her narratives, crumbled under the weight of evidence, strategy, and my refusal to be complicit. Albert had awakened from years of passive complicity, stepping finally into the space of truth. The house sale was more than a transaction, it was a declaration, a statement that I was no longer a pawn, no longer a captive in the game she had orchestrated. London awaited, but so did a profound sense of closure. The city, the plane, the sky above all were symbols of a life that was now mine entirely. And as we lifted off, banking gently over the city that had tried to contain me, I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation, excitement, and calm. The chapter with Martha and the house had ended. The next one, unwritten, stretched ahead with infinite possibility. I could finally exhale, knowing that everything I had fought for, my career, my money, my dignity, my freedom, was firmly in my own hands. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt completely, beautifully free. So there it is. She reclaimed her life, sold the house, and finally stepped into her freedom, leaving manipulation and control behind. It's a story about standing your ground, taking charge, and realizing your worth. Moments like these remind us how powerful it is to take back control of our own lives. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, consider sticking around. There are plenty more stories of triumph, drama, and unexpected twists waiting to be shared.